Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this video, we'll be discussing about the disaster recovery. Let's imagine you are running an e-commerce application which is crucial for your organization. However, data center it's hit by a massive flood. In that sense, your e-commerce application cannot work anymore. So disaster recovery, it's nothing but having a backup ready. In these cases, instead of running your primary application, the backup will up and run. So disaster recovery, it's set up a policy, tool, process that will allow you to recover or continue to run your software and infrastructure in case of any natural disaster or a human induced disaster. So the well prepared disaster recovery will include restoring the data, switching the operation to a secondary with a minimal downtime or a data loss. So, when we talk about the disaster recovery, there are quite a few terms that we need to understand. First of which, the failover. Failover, it's a process. It's to switch you from your primary location to the secondary location. Failback, when when your primary system it's up and run, rather than running your secondary as a primary, you will be shutting down your secondary and bringing back your primary, which is called failback. RTO, it's the recovery time objective. So how long you can afford before your secondary will come and come up and run. RPO, it's recovery point objective. How much data you can afford to lose. In case of an e-commerce application, both will be very limited. So different organizations follow a different category. Here I'm presenting a very generalized set of categories. So first of all, like you need to identify the categories using which you can categorize your individual applications. The reason is that disaster recovery it's a very expensive thing to have. So that's why, like, if you see, most of the organizations will not have a disaster recovery. Disaster recovery it's highly needed if at all you wanted to go for a ISO certification. Also, this will greatly help to keep your reputation right. So like, let's say, like, you are a e-commerce application, your application it's down for half an hour, or you are a bank and your application it's down for half an hour, the consumers it's not going to take it easy, right? Your reputation will go for a toss. So you need to identify which application it's critical for your business and which application it's can be marked as essential. And some operations, some application can be operational, needed for your operation. Some can be needed only to support the operation. Some are non-essentials. Some are cloud native, right? So basically, like, what does it mean? The critical application need to up and run without any downtime. So which means that the downtime will be very very minimal. Maybe like, within 5-10 minutes you have to come up and run, right? In minutes, not definitely into hours. Essential, probably, like, you can spend couple of hours. So typically, like, for essential, it will be like 1 to 4 hours. Operational, it's 1 to 2 days. And supportive applications, it's like 7 days. Non-essential, it can be up to a month. So you have to first define your categories, and each application you have to identify the category for the application, right? And based on which you will be implementing your disaster recovery. Again, recovery, it's a very very expensive thing to have. So in this case, let's assume that you are running an e-commerce application. It is completely hosted on Azure. Azure West it's our primary, and Azure East it's going to be our secondary. So this e-commerce application has a front end and a back end. It's deployed in Kubernetes. So static applications does not provide the replication. So you need to do a manual deployment in both the locations. So the traffic will initially come to the traffic manager or a friend door, and it will route the traffic to Azure West, and the content will be served by the static application. And when you do a deployment, you will be doing a deployment in both the locations. Same for the API applications, which is hosted in Kubernetes. And let's assume that these API applications use some of the Azure resources, call it as a Key Vault. Key Vault doesn't provide a geo replication natively. So again, you have to do a whatever the secrets, or whatever you add in a Key Vault in the west, that you have to do it in the east as well. However, the process that you follow, you have to do the you have to manually sync the data between these two. Cosmos DB, it does support the replication, so you just need to enable the replication between the regions. Same for SQL Server. SQL Server does provide the geo replication. You can enable it. Let's assume that this application also uses Kafka. Maybe like if it is a Azure based, completely Azure based, rather than using the Kafka, you will be using the service bus. Again, service bus doesn't support the geo replication, so you have to manually do it. So let's assume that this application also uses some of the VMs to run some integration services or whatever is that. So in that case, you have to use the Azure Site Recovery. So what I'm saying here is that for the you have to, from the bottom to top approach, you have to first identify list of resources used by the application, and then you can think about the overall aspect, right? So that's how you do. And the again, like we are using the APIM here. So APM again, it doesn't support geo replication. You have to do a manual, deployment in both the regions. So some of these does support a geo replication, some of these doesn't support the replication. But end of the day, you wanted to replicate everything. So you need to identify how are you going to do this replication, right? So for instance, I listed some of these information here. So let's say like you have a Kubernetes. Does it support? Is this a regional? Yes, it is regional. So if at all you wanted to have it in the other region, how to do a manual deployment? Uh, does it support automatic failover? No, it does not, because it is a regional specific, right? So in both the locations, it should run a deployment. You have to do a deployment in both the locations. Replication again, it's done through the deployment. It's a manual deployment. And the how much time it does take to fail over. Literally, it doesn't take much time, right? Because it's up and run, so there is nothing you have to do here. Key Vault, again, it's specific to the regional, and it will be active, like you will be keeping your key vault in both the locations, and it is a manual sync. Kafka does provide, the enterprise Kafka does provide the Confluent replicator. Again, for service bus also, you can use the Confluent replicator to do it, or you can use other methods to do the replication. SQL Server does provide a geo replication. Cosmos DB does provide a replication. Again, even if it does provide replication, there is again going to be data loss that you have to consider, right? For instance, failover data loss, it can be like 15 seconds for SQL, and for Cosmos DB, when I checked the last time, it was 5 minutes, or 1 lakh records. Likewise, you have to identify all these individual components and see like whether it is a regional specific. If not, like does it provide a geo recovery, and what kind of a method it supports for a replication, and how much data loss it's going to cause, and does it take any time to do a failover. For instance, like let's say you have a SQL server, right? So you will be having a SQL server in your east and west, but when you do a failover, it's not going to be instantaneous. So it will take a minute to do the failover, and failback also same. Same for Cosmos DB. For Cosmos DB, if you see here, as per Microsoft document, it is 15 minutes, though it does not take 15 minutes. It may be 1 or 2 minutes, but Microsoft says, it might take, max up to 15 minutes. So why does it need it? Because you have to calculate each of these before you commit your RTO and RPO, right? Because you have to calculate everything, come up with the cumulative numbers, to do your RPO and RTO. So this is how we do, right? So let's say you have a couple of applications here, and a couple of VMs here. So you do the deployment in both the regions. Both the applications will be running, but when somebody access this application, they will be coming to this APIM best APIM, and they will be accessing these APIs, and then these APIs underneath will be using some of these resources. So some of these provides geo replication, some of these provides geo recovery. So there is a difference between these two, which we need to understand. So I think that's all we have for this video. Thank you for watching.